MaestroDMX users, drum roll please! We are very excited to be releasing software version 1.4. We've been working on this for many months, and thank you for your patience. This release includes effects palettes, which has been the #1 most requested feature. Effects palettes is an incredibly powerful mechanism for you to automate your lights based on either cues, events in the music, or the trigger buttons on the show page. So for those folks who want to point the lights at the wedding cake at a specific static cue, that is now possible. You can now also automate strobing based on high intensity moments in the music, and also turn off effects such as lasers when the beat drops out. There's a ton of things you can do with this, and we'll get into it. Beyond that, we've made some additions and updates to the MIDI specification, some modifications to the UI. We've introduced Open Sound Control, also known as OSC, which is a network-based protocol to control MaestroDMX. This gives users the ability to create their own custom user interfaces using software like Touch OSC to control Maestro. So if you want to make a simplified user interface to say just trigger some cues in Maestro, you can do that now, and you can run it on any type of device like a phone or a tablet or a PC. And then finally, we're excited to release over-the-air updates. After updating to 1.4 using the traditional USB stick method, you will no longer need to use a USB stick to update to future versions. You will be able to update the software through the app. Lots of amazing things here. Thank you for your patience. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about some of the user interface improvements that have been made to software version 1.4. You'll see that live control looks a little bit different. Here we've got a preview of the colors that are being sent to your stage or to your lights on that given fixture group. So here on the primary group, this is the current color gradient or individual palette that is being sent out to the lights. So that can be handy to see what's going on without having to look at the lights on the stage. And we've also made improvements to the way that color palettes are displayed in the dropdown. So as before, you'll see your group palettes at the top, individual palettes underneath, and then below that we have extended channel palettes. If you scroll all the way down, you have extended channel palettes, and that's where you'll see your palettes with UV, white, amber, etc. You'll also see this new drop down. This is the effects palette drop down. It's the most exciting feature for 1.4, which we will get into later. Moving on, advanced params have been changed a little bit. You used to have a bunch of toggles here for toggling the trigger effect buttons. They've been now moved over to advanced params, so they're just a little more hidden to clean up the UI. You can still use them just as you could before. The transport controls for controlling the show have been pinned to the bottom of the interface, so no matter how you're scrolling, you will always see the transport controls, and you can stop, play, pause, move forward or backwards in your show, and also see the runtime of the current cue in the show. That makes it a little more easier on smaller devices. You'll also see that the control page has been pulled out of the stage page and put in the top level menu. This is to facilitate effects palettes. We'll get into that. And on the stage page, we've made a little change to where the pixel mapping lives. Before it was hidden over here, now it's right at the top. It's a bit more obvious. And you can open and close it with this arrow here. And finally, we have made improvements to syncing across multiple clients. So if I have two instances of the Maestro app running, so I can have this running over multiple devices or on the same device for just ease of navigation. There are improved synchronization between these clients. So say if I change the global brightness, it will change in the other interface. And if I change the show, for instance, here and drag a cue down, you'll see it changing in the other interface as well. So across the app, you'll notice that there is better synchronizing for multiple clients. All right, and we also removed all of the built-in fixture profiles that ship with Maestro. So if you go to the fixture profiles page, you'll see that the only built-in fixture profiles are now generic ones that cover the basic pixel use cases, and any user profiles that you downloaded from the website here as well. So this will make sure that you guys don't depend on any of the built-in fixture profiles because they get outdated, and that you're going to the fixture profile website at fixtures.maestrodmx.com to get the latest profiles. All right, that's about it for UI stuff. Let's get into the exciting new features. All right, time to talk about effects palettes. One of the most requested features we've had in these last few months is for MaestroDMX to be able to save positions and recall those positions, such as having the lights move and point at a wedding cake, for instance, on a specific cue. Effects palettes and snapshots allows you to do this and much, much more. Essentially, effects palettes provides a mechanism where you can grab snapshots of the fixtures on your stage and then recall those snapshots based on different events. Events in the music, events on trigger buttons that are pressed, or when cues are pressed. This is great for controlling effects or positions, like I talked about, and any other aspects of your fixtures. This is a massive feature with a lot of power behind it, so I do recommend taking the time to play around with it and learn how it works. So let's get started. On my stage, I have 2 gig bar move fixtures. They are these multi-fixtures, so each of those have 2 moving headlights, as you'll see here. And I'm going to set up an effects palette that points those moving headlights to a specific position. So if we go to our control page, now in the top level menu, you'll see I can pick here between my 2 gig bar moves. I'll select the first one and I can see all of the channels on that gig bar move. And I'm going to create a snapshot. So if I go over here, I go add snapshot. I'll call this wedding cake position. Save that. And now whatever changes I make to the control page are going to be saved under wedding cake position. So let's scroll down and I'm going to go to the first moving head, moving head 1 pan. So as I said before, each fixture has 2 moving heads. So let's say I'll tilt this one here and I'll pan it here to get to a specific point. And then what I can do here is I can link to the first moving head on the other gig bar move. So here I can go link. I can go link to moving head 1 pan on the second gig bar move. And then here I can link the tilt on the second gig bar move. So now the first mover on both of those lights will be synced up. I'll then go down to my moving head 2 pan and tilt. And let's say I want to move the tilt over here and the pan over here, get it to move where I want it to move. And I will also link that pan channel to moving head to pan, and I will link the moving head to tilt on this first fixture to the second moving head to tilt. And that completes my snapshot. So if I scroll all the way back up and I go over to gig bar move 2, you'll see that moving head 1 pan and 1 tilt are linked to the first gig bar move, and moving head 2 pan and tilt are also linked to the first gig bar move. So we've talked a little bit about linking. We've built our first snapshot. So now just be aware that those changes I made, you won't actually see them on the stage until you hit this preview button. So make sure that preview button is flashing if you actually want to see your current snapshot played live on your stage. Okay, so now that we've created our snapshot, and you can create as many snapshots as you want. For now, we've just created this one called wedding cake position. Go back to show, and let's say I want to pick a solid color pattern to make a static cue with my movers pointing to the wedding cake. I'm going to go add effects palette. Call it positions. I can fill description category if I want. I'm going to add include snapshot. I'm going to select wedding cake and I'm going to just keep it on default category for now. and I'm going to leave it at a full activity range. To dive a little bit deeper here, there's different active categories that you can pick for your different snapshots. So for instance, I could make the movers point to the wedding cake every time there's silence, or when there's a kick drum or a beat playing, or if there's no kick drum playing. I can also link it to the trigger buttons. So I could say, when I hit the effect button, all the movers move to the wedding cake. So as you can see, there's a lot of options here on when to trigger your snapshots. For now, I'll just put it on default, creating a very simple effects palette. I'll save that. I'll select that effects palette. So now here I've got static color on solid color pattern with my effects palette here. And inside the effects palette, I have my wedding cake position set. And then I'll save that as a cue. And I can just call that wedding cake static look. And now when I hit that cue, the lights will go to that static look and the movers will move to the wedding cake. So this is the simplest use of effects palettes. But as you can see, you could get a lot more complicated with it. And we will have follow-up tutorial videos to show you some other use cases of effects palettes. But for now, this is a great way to get started. But I do encourage you to experiment with different effects, with your lasers, different positions, and play around with the different active categories in here by adding snapshots. So you can continue adding snapshots and select categories for those snapshots, and also activity ranges in which those snapshots function. So if you want certain snapshots to trigger at high energy, you can just put a band of high activity range in that specific snapshot. For instance, if you wanted a snapshot to trigger when there's the beat is playing and it's high energy, you would do something like this. Or when the music stops and it's silence, and you could put in a snapshot for silence, but we'll keep it simple for now. All right, that concludes the introduction to effects palettes and snapshots. We are also really excited to announce the release of what we call over-the-air updates. This makes it so that once you have installed 1.4, you no longer need a USB stick to update the software. You can just update the software through the app. But keep in mind, if you are running 1.3.2 or anything older, you will need a USB stick to get to 1.4. However, once you're at 1.4, then you can just update the software over the air through the app. So to do that, you go to the system page, to info and updates. This is a menu item that's been changed. And you will see software update instructions here. So you simply download the .mae file, which is the Maestro software package. You can drag it into here, or you can click here to browse for it and then follow these instructions to install the software. It's really self-explanatory and pretty foolproof. And just a reminder, to get the latest software, you have to go to our support site, click on software updates, and you will see the latest software here, which once you're reviewing this video, you will have the 1.4 software package here under this heading. So just a reminder, to upgrade to 1.4 from 1.32 or earlier, you will need to use a USB stick. But then after that, to go to 1.41 or anything in the future, you can just do it through the app, which is a lot easier. And we are really stoked to announce some changes and additions to using third-party applications and controllers to control Maestro. So based on popular demand, we have added OSC control, also known as Open Sound Control. OSC is a network-based protocol to send messages to devices to control them. So now you can use OSC either from your digital audio workstation or your custom controller or any software to control Maestro in real time. An example of using OSC to control Maestro would be using Touch OSC. TouchOSC is a free-to-use custom interface designer where you could essentially build your own Maestro app as simple or as complicated as you want it to be and run it on any kind of platform, phones, tablets, computers, etc., over a network. So you can go in and create different interfaces with buttons and sliders and connect them to things in Maestro to control Maestro. So for instance, if you wanted to have a really simple tablet interface for your club to provide a few cues that people could use, like your staff, you could build that really easily using TouchOSC and then trigger cues in Maestro from your device. I encourage you to look more into that. We'll give you a lot of options for control. To find our TouchOSC specification, just go to our support page and you're going to click on Learn MaestroDMX, and there will be an OSC section there that will outline the different messages you can send to Maestro to control it. And of course, reach out to us for any help, office hours, or support for any questions you have. And we have also made some small modifications and additions to how MIDI works. Namely, we've added the ability to select pattern, color palette, and effects palette through MIDI for real-time control. Again, I encourage you to go to the page and review the MIDI spec under Learn MaestroDMX to see any changes. And yeah, happy playing. This has been a really big release for us. We've been working on it for many, many, many months. And thank you for your patience. It took us longer than we hoped, but we wanted to make sure it was built properly with the highest of quality and built to serve all of you, our amazing customers all over the world. Thank you so much.